curious, when you switched over to TurnKey Coach, we put a lot of emphasis on the connect page, and that video exchange is really where we see the heart of the value. Did you notice a change in the time you were spending on your video feedback? Like, what we've heard is, I don't know why, but I just had time open up. Time became available. Is that something that you experienced as well?
I would say to an extent.
Okay.
So I think one of the things it did for me is it helped me kill two birds with one stone,
Mm.
kind of like you're talking about, where I would typically go and drop my feedback video, which by the way, my old feedback videos had none of the tools. So it's
Mm.
literally just me kind of like recalling what I saw. Be like,
Hmm.
yeah, go back to your day one, kind of look at this, and go back to your day three, and I saw these kind of things, and this is the things we want to focus on this week. So they tended to be pretty short. Um, but then I would go back into Slack and I'd kind of like type out or send a voice note of, what to expect for the week. These are some of the adjustments that I made, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So now it's all in one video. So
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, cool. I'm floating through your days. I'm showing you this stuff. It's probably made me worse because I start drawing on everything. That's the worst thing. Like mine take a little bit longer,
You got a little
but the
Madden in you.
the quality, yeah, is 10
Hmm.
times better because all that little nuance I can show now. And I can say, like, okay, cool. And I watch all my stuff live. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna
Yep.
get my initial
Yep.
reaction. You're
That
not, I didn't
same.
go through and watch them all first.
Same.
Like, I go through and you're getting live reactions. So if your dog walks in the middle of the set, I'm gonna circle him, I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna I'm gonna crack some jokes. Like
Yeah.
I, I think for me, it's actually enhanced my ability to do some of the things that I do best, which is kind of just be off the cuff
Mm.
and let things rip kind of naturally. So I've
Mm.
found it's in total saved me time, but the videos themselves are a little bit longer and more detailed.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I've gotten a phenomenal response from it.
Mm.
Like just the increased interaction and those sorts of things have been huge. And now, like you said, I got
Yeah.
I got one client, like she embeds jokes like in her comments and stuff just so that I can
Get the
respond or laugh
reaction.
laugh at it, and she screen records it and immediately puts it on Instagram. So it's a lot of fun. So I
I
think
love
that's
it.
the big thing. Here's the other piece for me too. I think as an online coach, some things can get really redundant,
Hmm.
and the enjoyability of things is big. I don't know if you know Mike Tushir from
Hmm.
Reactive Training Systems.
Yeah.
Mike and I were having a discussion about training, and that he's got RPE as this metric. Like
Hmm.
I kind of, for lifting, Mike is the first guy to really incorporate that. But
Right.
him and I were talking about a subjective measure of like training enjoyment and how much that
Mm.
impacts the quality of your training. It's the same thing with work. If you enjoy, like it's made a massive increase in like I get to do feedback videos today as opposed to I have to do feedback videos today
Mm.
because it used to be a slog. Now I know I can draw, like I'm going to be looking at it. Just as soon as I get into the flow of it, it's just, and my
Yeah.
brain just takes over and I have a blast. So that's the thing. It's gotten me some time back, yes, but my enjoyment of doing it is much higher.
I want to jump back into the business side of it a little bit, with building a company. Now, over the years, you've grown to a point where you've got multiple coaches. You talked about the importance of maintaining the quality of fulfillment. As you've expanded your coaching roster, and added staff, how do you ensure that all of the coaches hold up your philosophy and the culture that you envision?
Micromanagement. So here's the thing. I think people give micromanaging a bad rap
Hmm.
because everybody thinks of micromanaging as like constantly looking over your shoulder. Everybody remembers that from work, right? Like
Mm,
you had a supervisor, it doesn't even matter what field. You had a supervisor, somebody, if you're typing on a computer, if you're digging a hole, it didn't matter. They were like looking over your shoulder, making sure every finger was in the right position. That's you don't need to do that. Empower them, give them the freedom to perform and then review it. I
mm,
want to look at the small details. I want to look at, especially because a lot of what we do, even with voice notes and video, a lot of text that goes back and forth.
mm,
And language becomes really important.
mm,
How you say things, the words you use to say things, the way you even ask a question, right? Like I push my coaches instead of asking a why question, ask a what question first.
mm,
Why do you feel that way? Right? Is a lot different than what could have been done better.
mm,
One can get a defensive response, the other can get a constructive response. So I really do we review that stuff on a regular basis. We have conversations about that, and we very regularly discuss clients. We discuss their journeys. We discuss what they're going through. We discuss their personal stuff that they're going through, so that everybody can be on the same page. So I think it's having an attention to detail, but also letting them work, right? Like,
mm,
here's the task that I need done. Here's the outcome that we want, right? You find a way from here to there, and then as you walk through it, we'll review. But
mm,
I'm not going to tell some of my coaches like, hey, here's how I want it done my way or the highway type thing. Like, here's the outcome we want to get. Are we all aligned on the outcome? Yes. Awesome. Okay, cool. Here are our standards that we have. Make sure you follow those. Okay. And then get there. And then we can review. I think that marries a good, healthy bit of self accountability while also having enough supervision and enough oversight to make sure the standards are met.
mm. Do you have a, particular, like a specific athlete story where it wasn't your client, but somebody, one of your staff, staff's clients, where you were able to do that kind of a mentorship, I would call it, where
Oh
they
man.
were able to achieve something that even exceeded your expectations?
I mean, I got to shout the kid out. You've interacted with Wyatt quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say this out loud. I won the lottery. Okay. I won the lottery. This kid, the first year I did that clinical athlete powerlifting course, he was the only undergraduate student that came. He's an undergrad kid in a sea of doctorates of physical therapy, hanging out, asking all the questions, doing all the stuff. So back in the day when I asked for an intern, he was the first to raise his hand. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. When I sent that post out, I was like, please, Wyatt, please, please, please see this. I hope you see this and you apply. Because I wanted him to be the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this has happened on numerous occasions, but the one that jumps out to me is our athlete Karen. Karen, I first met at the gym in person, right? Like this is one of those people that was local to me. And she had quite a few things going on. She had a chiropractor telling her she had this chronic neck pain for X amount of reasons, that she wouldn't be able to put a bar on her back. She wouldn't be able to do some of these things. And I initially worked with her for an extended period of time. She was actually part of my in-person powerlifting team before COVID hit and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of those things got shut down. So I worked with her initially to kind of get her over the hump of some of those pieces. And then when she ended up switching over to fully remote, Wyatt took over her programming and some of her management. And through that transition, we kind of discussed twice a week. We did it on Mondays and Fridays. We would discuss the clients on his roster and we would watch kind of as she would progress and we would navigate certain health concerns, certain misinformation campaigns run against her,
Mm,
all those things that you have to navigate, right? And I'll never forget, she did her very first powerlifting meet, and it was like the former Karen was a shell of herself. Like she was a
Mm,
completely different woman, right? So we got to keep going because this is a years long journey. So I got to
mm,
keep it tight here. She did her first powerlifting meet. She fell in love with it. Launched her own business called Strength Connection, where she trains people in a small location, kind of like somebody who's taken general fitness approach and group fitness approach and just trying to get people into strength training. So
mm,
she's serving that kind of population and has since qualified and competed last year in Powerlifting America Nationals at the masters level,
wow.
and has big, big, big goals and dreams. I mean, she is going from I don't know if I can do that to like, oh yeah, I'm going next year and I'm going to win, and then I really, really, really want to do Masters Worlds, and like she's that person that like the calendar hits January 1st and she's told you this is what we're doing this year, guys.
Mm,
Like we're ready to rock and roll. And her response to Wyatt, who is half her age, he's this young kid. He's, he's brilliant, but he's helped lead her through, I would say, the last 3 years of that progression
wow.
in a masterful way of just piece by piece by piece. And the nice part is at this point, if anything comes up, it's such a simple conversation. Hey, John, I just want to run something by you really quick. This
Mm,
is, the conversation we had the other day. Here's the scoop. What would you do in this situation? I'd probably do
mm,
X, Y, Z. What do you think? And now it's just a full-blown collaboration.
mm.
And we do that with everybody. It's awesome. I mean, he's got a roster to himself. He manages extraordinarily well. And we just touch base twice a week, and he kills it.
That is awesome. Is that do you have like a set of values and like a culture that, again, I guess this is kind of similar to when you launched the business. Did you set out to build your organization with that type of culture, or is that just something that's emerged with those lessons learned, that rapid failure approach?
It's definitely been through lessons.
Hmm.
But I think there's one thing, and it's a really important piece of the puzzle here. When you're a solopreneur, when you're running a business, the culture is you.
Mm,
You are the culture. How you treat people, how you operate, how you do all that kind of stuff. It's when you bring that first person in, whether it's an intern, I wouldn't say like a VA because they're not as client facing, but
right.
as soon as you bring in another coach or somebody else that's going to be more client facing, now you have to establish a culture and you have to understand the values that you want to approach the business with. So I was lucky in that Wyatt and I aligned quite a bit on some of the things we wanted to do. And I also brought in a girl by the name of Christy Fisher, who helped me with the women's health aspect of powerlifting. And she was awesome. But the three of us were really aligned. Part of that was that both of them had taken my course, and I
Mm,
had a piece of that in there of like
mhm,
the soft skills of coaching, how to communicate, those sorts of things. But it was still something that you have to revisit on a regular basis because something to live by is if you want people to do something, you have to ask them to do it.
mhm,
I was a silent leader for a long time, lead by example type
mhm,
person. And I could never understand why 50% of the population wouldn't listen to lead by example. It's because they're not being asked to do the thing. Not
mm,
everybody is like responds to that kind of leadership.
mhm,
So a lot of the times it was that, and then understanding I had to do some self-reflection prior to bringing Wyatt and Christy in on, okay, what are the things that I do that are important to me? Very transparently, what are the things that I don't do well that they can do better to make the whole process better, which is big, right?
mhm,
Like you have to analyze your own weaknesses and say, okay, I don't want that piece of me to be part of the culture anymore.
mm,
And then establish those as the standards. So for us, one of the first things, top of the list is transparency. You're going to own your, they're going to own their, right? It's even in my sales process, it's a qualifier. Hey, look, open, early conversation. Nothing festers for 2 to 3 months.
mm,
I want to know now, as hard as the conversation may be.
mm.
And if something comes up for me, I'm going to be just as transparent. I'm just gonna be. If I mess up, I'm gonna tell you. Ah, I forgot about XYZ. I did. That's fine.
Mm,
If you find yourself doing that often, you're not meeting the standard because you have to be transparent. Be better with your systems, but be transparent.
mm,
That's number one. The other one for us is to really foster community. That we're all in it together. We have high level competitors that stand shoulder to shoulder with people who just want to be able to pick up their kids. All of them are moving in a direction they want to move, and we just honor that. And we have fun with it.
mm.
And that's the last piece. None of this stuff shouldn't be fun. Look, we're talking about powerlifting. Okay. You're not going to make a living being a powerlifter.
Mhm.
Uh, I met you at the Arnold for the first time. Jen got her first powerlifting paycheck. It was $500 because she won. She won the Arnold and it was $500. You're not paying bills with that.
Right.
So, it's got to be fun. And I think what that's done is it's made it so that our ideal client sticks around for a really long time because those are the things that they appreciate. And it's what attracted them to our brand to begin with. And when you meet those standards, then you build trust with them and they stick around for a really, really, really long time. But that stuff is consistent across the brand. Like my Instagram's transparent, my Instagram is fun, my Insta, all those things.
Mm.
So if you can stay consistent with that and authentic with that, it'll help the whole process.
Well, I wanted to make sure and touch on I just saw, speaking of Instagram and fun, congrats on foundational strength.
Yeah.
I just saw
Yeah.
you
Not
opening the box to much fanfare from your kids, by the way.
Well, I opened it on St. Patty's Day, and Max, my youngest, she had guessed. She was trying to guess what was in the box prior to hitting record, and
Yeah.
she was so excited that it was going to be Lucky Charms in the box because it's St. Patty's Day. So when I opened it, and it's my book, which I've been working on for 3 years, she's like, "Oh, it's not Lucky Charms." Ah,
So what was that
oh.
process like for you? Where did the inspiration come from? And, what were those learning lessons like?
Well, you know what? I think this actually this is such a good kind of like wrap it up with a bow moment.
Mm,
The book all came from the relationships that I have. So I mentioned Quinn earlier, right?
mhm, yeah.
Quinn and I have
He
been
wrote
doing these
your
courses for
forward.
a long time together. What's that?
He wrote the forward.
Yeah, he wrote the forward, originator of Clinical Athlete.
Mhm.
When we were doing some of these courses, he introduced me to Corey Van Wyck. Now, Corey has become a good friend. He actually worked with Brett Bartholomew for a while. So, Art of
Oh yeah,
Coaching,
I did one of
that
his
kind of.
workshops.
Yeah, phenomenal guy. Corey
Mhm.
was kind of his right hand guy for a while, helping organize the educational processes and all that kind of stuff. He was a college strength coach himself, and I coached Corey for an extended period of time. He had some back stuff going on, trying to build his deadlift and stuff like that. So we built this good friendship. When he left Brett's place, he actually started working for Human Kinetics as their acquisitions guy. And he hits me up, super random phone call in an afternoon. He's like, "Hey, dude, uh, I think I want you to write a book." And I was like, I almost hung up. I was like, "Nah, not me. You didn't call me for that sort of thing." But we were talking about just kind of updating the peanut butter and jelly descriptions and instructions on how to do the basic barbell lifts,
Mm,
the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, and the press, and to kind of update some of the old material that's out there and kind of take my approach to it, which is, like I said, a little bit more fun, but also just really step by step. Like the number one barrier for entry for most people when they walk into the gym isn't the gym itself, it's not knowing what to do.
mhm.
And why do most people hop on a treadmill or a bike? Because it's preset. You
Right.
can walk in and you can just, there's the TV. Okay. This is familiar. Press go. And it just goes. It's easy. But
Yeah.
there's so many questions when you walk up to a squat rack. How heavy is the bar? Where do I
Right.
put the bar? How high do I put the bar? How do I do the thing that I'm trying to do? How do I walk it out? What are these clip things? How do I operate them? Why am I doing all this stuff?
Mhm.
So I take each one of those lifts piece by piece by piece and I break them down so that you can understand the fundamentals of them. But then also, I go through variations that can help build them. I go through all the accessory stuff to help build them. And create a real kind of choose your own adventure approach to
Mm-hmm.
programming at the very end. So it's not like here's 12 programs that I really like. It's
Mm-hmm.
no. Take your choice here. Do you want to train 3 or 4 days a week? Here's how that impacts training, because you can't just do 16 exercises 5 days a week,
Right.
right? If you do five, if you pick 5 days, understand that's going to pigeonhole you into doing less exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do less and do more exercise. It depends on how much
Right.
time do you have in the gym,
Right. Right.
right? Here's a decision tree there. So I tried to take an algorithmic approach to programming to help people better understand it, because the other problem that I find is that people hop from terrible program on the internet, and there's phenomenal free programs out there. I'm gonna tell you,
Mm-hmm.
there's some great stuff, but some of it looks like it's written by a monkey. So I wanted people to better understand those pieces, and that all came from those relationships. Corey was like, I want you to do this. And it was a difficult process. It was one of the most difficult processes I've probably ever done. Once I got into flow, I was good. But there are so many things, like talk about check your ego at the door type
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um, I think the biggest lesson that I learned, and I find myself to be a good communicator, but when you're writing, your knowns become even more nondescript to the average reader.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finished the manuscript and it got sent to editing and it came back, my first response was like, "Oh my God, have these people ever lifted in their life? Like, what do you mean? Explain that more. What same kind of thing you're talking about. Any feedback
Yeah.
is a gift, right?
Right. Right.
So that was a big learning lesson. And then just the process of writing a book, it's pretty
It
extensive.
was three
The
years, you
photo
said?
3 years. Now it
Wow.
should have been done way faster.
Mm.
Okay. I had a move in there.
Uh,
I had a failed move that turned into a move. The business was growing, so I was traveling a lot for meets. Like there was plenty of interruptions and starts and stops, and God bless Corey and my editor, Laura Pulliam, for kind of keeping me pushing
mm.
along and bringing the project home. But yeah, it was
Mm.
it was a
Well,
lot.
congrats, man. I know that's a huge milestone. And I guess if I could get one last question in from you, kind of looking forward now, uh, you know, what what are you where do you see Rebuild Stronger going? A two-part question, which is one looking forward and one looking back. Where do you see yourself going? And then for people that are starting out, if you were to go back to John Flagg 10 years ago, which you may have already actually answered this question, start sooner. Is there any advice you'd give yourself? So, um, yeah, I don't know if you want to take that apart in two different parts, or maybe they fit together, but
Um,
where are you headed? And anything you want to plug, obviously, here too, if you want to give people a sense of what's coming next with Rebuild Stronger.
so I think next for Rebuild Stronger, I think it's a couple phases of things. One of the unspoken pieces to this is my business partner, Jared Maynard. He had a business, Unbreakable Strength, 2 years ago that he almost died. So he got a very rare, didn't get, it's an autoimmune disease called
Mm,
HLH. And you're going to have to look it up on Google because I can never say it correctly. Um, but he almost died. And
mm.
when he was going through that process, we actually took our businesses and merged them. He was actually in a coma. I had to do it with
Oh my God.
his wife and the blessing there. So we're going to continue to grow and continue to push the business forward and plan on expanding out past powerlifting and like my initial niche. I know he wants to make an impact on some of that autoimmune community. And I still want to continue to drive forward the elite level powerlifting and strength that we've been doing. So that's number one. Number two, I want to continue to dive pretty heavy into the educational aspect of coaching and clinical care and those sorts of things. I think a large growth piece that social media has been able to create for people is more people are able to dive into coaching now than pretty much ever.
Hmm.
It's a meme in powerlifting of like, I did my first meet, now I'm a coach. But I think people who are willing to do that and take that leap just need the guidance. They need the education. They need to better understand the ins and outs of that process. Because if we can create more quality coaches, great. That's awesome.
Right.
It's one of the things that's going to help build the sport, build all of those things. And the ones that can't hack it, that's great. It exposes that piece of it. We talk about low quality coaching all the time. I'd much rather see us educate ourselves out of that than trash all the people who are trying to start up. Where do you build a foundation off of that? You leave no generation to hand anything off to. So that piece, and then last but not least, and this is going to be the first anybody really hears it, the room that I'm in is part of our first physical location. So we're going to be launching a gym. My boy Wyatt, he lives up in Montana now. He's traveling his ass down here to North Carolina,
Oh,
and
wow.
we're gonna open a small personal training studio to start out in my local community and start to give back to the community with what we've been able to build digitally. That's been a dream of mine to find a way to give back to the community and help people within the community through the power of strength that we know exists. So now that we've kind of got the leeway and the ability to do that and the financial security to do that, we're going to push that out starting in May. So those are the big things.
Awesome.
If there's something I tell myself from 10 years ago, honestly, from 10 years ago, it would just be to believe.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, act sooner. But if there's anything that I've learned from this is the belief factor is critical. It's absolutely critical. And when I was at the Arnold, the people that I gravitated to, your guy Anthony being one of them, like that handshake, that eye contact, knowing you're around people that are similar, that believe in themselves enough to build each other up is massive. It is huge. If I'd even more so than act sooner, right? Is just get around people that unabashedly and unapologetically believe in themselves and start to do that too. Because people that are that way, they don't tear each other down. This
Hmm.
thing of business, those people understand the pie is big enough and we can actually make it bigger if we all come together and work on this thing. So that would be the other thing that I would say to myself is lean into your own belief and get around more people that aren't naysayers, that don't have that scarcity mindset, that will help build that up because those people, they're they're the real advocates. They're the ones that make the world go round.
Man, I don't think we could have ended on a better note, man. That was awesome. Thank you again for taking time out of your day, sharing your wisdom and your experience. Incredible story, and really excited to see where you go. And appreciate everything you put out into the world. I mean, I think the first interaction I had with you was on social media like years ago, and just really appreciated the content you put out, and thank you again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.